Hello, welcome to my dog nose tutorial. We'll be working with some Polychromos, Pablo, and Luminance pencils on our green pastel matte paper. Violet gray Luminance pencil. And we're just going to go ahead and start to little circles, highlight, put a base down color of the nose. So we're just going to go around the nose very lightly. You don't need to use a lot of pressure on your pencil, and just little circles around the top here. And I'm going to bring it down around the nose, a little bit around the nostril here, just a little bit, and down underneath the nostril. We don't have to go in the nostril because that is going to mostly be black, dark grays. But let's get a nice base coat all around the nose other than the nostrils. So I'm bringing it down around the bottom, and we'll come around the other side. Okay. This just kind of helps us get started, get a little bit of color on our paper, so it's not quite as intimidating. Okay. There, we've got some nice color down now. Then we can go ahead and take, one of the things you want to do too is just kind of make some adjustments. If you're looking at your reference photo and maybe one of the nostrils looks a little bit different than you're tracing, go ahead and make those adjustments. I got to bring this in a little bit more right here. This is going to be a little more rounded. Okay. Now let's take our black and let's go ahead and just put our nostrils in, and we just want to run the black in little circles around the top, right around here. Now again, not heavy pressure, I'm keeping light pressure. And I'm not coming completely down to the bottom of the nostril. Well, I guess we can. It's pretty dark. Let's go ahead and bring it right down. Right down here. This cute little lab nose. This sweet puppy. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the other side. This will give us a pretty good base to get started. Now the nostril bottoms should be parallel to each other. Okay, so when you get them a little bit colored in, we're using light pressure, just double check and make sure that the bottom of each nostril is similar. It's parallel on the paper, so the bottom of this one should match up with the bottom of this one. That's pretty good. We can make small adjustments as we go. Okay, as at the top, you can go ahead and press a little harder, make your circles a little more dense. Just because we know up here is pretty dark, right in this area. The rest I will leave a little bit lighter just so I can make adjustments as we go. And same with this side. I'm going to press a little harder along this edge and along the top. But I'm going to leave the rest of it a little lighter just to make adjustments. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to take my, let's go to our brown, our Pablo brown, and let's go ahead and start coloring right along the edge where this fur would be in the back. Now if you notice your reference photo, it's not just a line straight across. So I'm still making small strokes, but I'm coming down where the darkest parts are on my reference photo. Just kind of getting that edge in. And as we come down, it gets lighter into like a pink color. So I'm not gonna bring that all the way down around the edge. Now down here I can definitely get this in, draw this in, because this is gonna be fur on the lip part here. So let's go ahead and put that in. And I'm referring to my reference photo as I'm drawing, making sure I'm getting it accurate. And then we're going to come up. It kind of comes in here a little bit like that. And same with this side. We've got this little piece here is going to come around. We do have a little edge here that's going to be more pink. So I'm just going to kind of bring this in and around the nostril here. Just so I have my bearings, know what's going on. Okay, like that. And then over here, we've got this guy comes out like this. And again, we've got some brown along this side of the nose, but it comes down like that. And that'll be pink over on this side. Oh, I went a little too far, but that's okay. This shouldn't have been colored in so much, but we can fix that. Okay, and just a very light, right above the nose here. And I'm going to bring it forward just a little bit. There's a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead with my brown. We're going to put grayish purple over it, but I'm going to go ahead and start marking a little bit of the shadow there. Okay, just again, I'm just kind of getting my bearings right with the reference photo. This shadow in that goes around the nostrils like this, just little circles, light pressure, comes around the nostrils, and we're going to gray it up in a little bit. So let's just bring that in. Let's add some undercolor to it. And over here, kind of comes up in a little bit of a upside down triangle, like this is the point of the triangle, and then it curves a little bit down around the nostrils, like that. And then same with this side. So we're just going to try to follow that same shape. Comes down around the nostrils, like that. And then this front. I do want to get the line in that divides the nose, so let's go ahead and put that in. And that's going to come down into the lip area. So just so we can remember where that is. If you'd like, you can go ahead and darken it with black. It is going to be a dark part of the nose. Okay. Like so, and then let's go ahead and put some light, very light pressure. Let's connect up here with our brown. Still doing circles because there is a texture on the dog's nose, so having the circles helps with that texture. And I'm coming down and around, and it kind of comes right into the lip over here. Just like that. I'm going to come around the nose. There's a little highlight in here, so I'm not putting the dark brown all the way up to the nostrils. I'm reserving that space for some highlight. And then it comes down into here. Now you don't have to press hard because we're going to layer this, so you don't have to press hard right away. Okay, so we're starting to get the shape of the nose. We want to check our reference photo and make sure that things are lining up. I notice on this side I have to come out just a little bit more. I've got it a little too narrow, so I can do that. And because we use light pressure, we can go ahead and kind of start to fix some of these things without having to make major adjustments, which is nice. So I should come up around this nostril just a little bit more. Right there. This side looks pretty good. Connect them like that. Nice. Okay. All right, so let's get our little highlight in. I think I'm going to switch over to, no, let's use that after. Let's go to our, again, let's go back to our violet gray. And right above the nose here, we've got a lot of purples. We can go right over the shadow we did, the brown. So we're kind of mixing it in with the gray. So the top of the nose here is in some highlights, is in light. So we're going to create it a little, it's going to be a little lighter. And you can notice on our reference photo that parts of it are lighter and parts of it are a little bit darker. And again, I'm still using light pressure and small circles. So I'm coming around the edge of the nostril, and we're gonna, you'll start to see your nostril become a little, your nose become a little more 3D as we work. Because we will be using highlights and lowlights, which is going to create that, where it's like popping off of the page. Now I'm creating my highlight around the edge of the nostril. There's a little bit if you look at your reference photo, and down around the bottom here. And along this side, and I'm going to do the same over here. So we've got a highlight right here, so I can kind of mark that in with my gray. And let's bring this down and around the nostril like so, just like that. And then of course there is some over on the side here. Little guy, and comes around inside. That's that little rounded part of the nostril, of the nose. Each side has one. There's one over here too. So we can kind of get those in. It's like a little semicircle, a circle that kind of comes up into the nose up here. There. And look at that. We can start to see it getting a little more dimension. We're going to come around this way. I'm always looking at my reference photo. I'm always back and forth between what I'm working on and glancing at my reference photo. All right, just like that. So that's a pretty good start. Now at this point I would stop for a minute and just check my reference photo, make sure things are kind of lining up the way I want them to, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So now we're going to switch to our gray, light gray Pablo pencil, and right above the nose here we've got quite a bit of highlights. So again, small circles. I'm going right over everything I put in, so some areas will be a little darker and other areas will be a little lighter because we did put some of that brown down. Okay. And again, at this point, don't worry about it being too perfect. You know, we'll refine and change things as we go, as needed. So right above here, we've got this nice highlight, rounding out this part of the nose. And right now it's like blocking in color and getting some of the layers down to start to fill the tooth of the paper. I'm going to come around this way, over here, and just down around the edge here. Kind of where we put all that, the light gray color. Or the violet gray, sorry. I'm just going to keep going in circles. You can use a tiny bit more pressure if you're feeling pretty confident about the actual shape of your nose. You can use a little more pressure on your paper. Not too much though. We don't want to get rid of the tooth of the paper quite yet because we are still working. As we build our layers, we can put a little more pressure down. But Okay, I'm going to catch these highlights around the nostril again. Coming around the nose. And it kind of kicks back over here and around the side. And then same on this side. We're going to get this guy in. And we're going to come around the bottom of the nose. Creating that, and then this edge. Okay, great. I do kind of want to start to get this edge in. So it's this little rounded part on your reference photo. I want to make sure, we don't want to lose it, so I want to make sure I start to pencil that in. Alright, so we're getting somewhere. It's starting to look good. Now what I'd like to do is switch to, actually let's do burnt sienna. And let's go ahead and go over the darker parts of the nose that we did earlier. And we're going to definitely come back in here with some dark colors. So I just like to get a little bit, we're going to use some purples in here. But I like to start to get, I'm going to push it up just a little bit up into here, but use a little bit lighter pressure just so I get a little more of a slight gradient going. Not too much. I do want to keep it more concentrated down in the front here. Okay, and just along this edge. Again, I'm just trying to fill in some of the tooth of the paper. I am not using super hard pressure, just little circles, kind of building my layers as we go. I'm doing a little swiping motion that goes up into the highlight just a little bit in certain parts, just so that there's not a hard line there, and then come down. I'm also going to just right above the nostrils start to push some light, using light pressure. I'm just pushing some of the burnt sienna there, and again around the nostril, building up this shadow. Taking it a little closer to the edge of the nose over here and bringing this in. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side, taking it up and around. Okay, wonderful. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with some purple, and I've chosen to use Violet in the Luminance pencil, and I'm just going to go over very lightly the brown that we just put in. So just to start to darken it up and add some really pretty bright color in there. And the purple works really well with the burnt sienna because the burnt sienna has some orangey yellow tones in it, and the purple, if you were to just go in with a black, it would start to create green. So with the purple, we aren't going to get that green effect. We're going to get a nicer, darker brown kind of black, but I don't necessarily always want to just use black. I like to have some depth in it. And I like to have my animals have some hints of color underneath everything. So again, we're just going to follow that same way we did it. We're just going around those darker, look at your reference photo, follow your photo. We're just creating the shadow that's on the front of the nose. And then it just kind of comes around this way into the nostril. So this whole area here is kind of dark. This is where that little circle part is. And then underneath, it gets a little dark because there's some shadow going on in there. So go ahead and put that in using your purple. And then we can do that on the same side over here. So I want to keep my little circle that's going on over here. Right here, this little part. But when I come down here, it does come into a shadow. And there's a little bit of a droop right here. Same on this side, a little bit of a droop. Okay, and we come up around like that. Again, I am making adjustments as I go. I'm noticing things that I may have missed before, kind of, you know, lightly drawing them in as I go. If you need to take a step back, stop for a minute, pause the video, go get some coffee or a snack, and then reevaluate when you come back. Reevaluate your nose. Make sure it's the way that it should be drawn for the anatomy, anatomically correct. If it seems off, it's okay. We're still using light pressure. You can use a rubber eraser, a kneaded eraser, and lift some of the color out and make adjustments as needed. You can also use Scotch tape. Scotch tape works really well to remove pencil without damaging the paper. Again, I'm using light pressure and I'm doing circles. Keeping an eye on my reference photo, making sure I'm getting it correct. Okay, we've got a pretty colors going on. Very autumn feeling, which is great. That's the feeling I wanted for this dog. And then I'm going to go ahead and just over those brown areas, I'm just going to touch in some purple here, just to help define it a little more rather than using black. So just a little bit, and then this will pop more as we start to build the structure outside of the nose with the fur. But I can go ahead and get some of this in, just like that. And I am going to go ahead in the nostrils and go right over my black with my purple, and you can put a little more pressure down. You don't have to use real light pressure because these are black. They're pretty dark. Just like that. And I'll do this side as well. Coming down around again. All right. There is a tiny shadow right above this little circle part, so I can go ahead and start to mark some of that in. And I'm going to bring some sweeping up and around this little crevice here. And the same over here. Just a back and forth sweeping motion. There we go. Okay, looking good. Now right away I notice how bright this is, but we can tone that down as we go. I can even just pop a tiny bit of purple right over it, very, very lightly, like a glaze, and that knocks it back a little bit. I am going to bring a little purple from the back and bring it forward using light pressure, just in some spots. Again, just building the darks to the lights. And over here, just a touch along this edge. There, perfect. A Polychromos Walnut Brown pencil. And I'm going to go over this shadow again. Now that I've got some purple down, I'm going to go ahead and go kind of right in the center here. Right in the middle. This whole area. And I'm using a little bit more pressure now. Putting a little more pressure onto the paper. feeling pretty good about the anatomy of my nose. It's looking really good, so I'm not afraid to go ahead and put some pressure. I'm still using tiny circles because there is a texture on the nose, like that, and then over here. Okay, comes right down. Let me just do a little check. I'm going to put some around the edges here and above my nostril. And over that purple I put in. Okay, now I'm switching to Dark Flesh and the Luminance, and I'm going to go over my shadow again. Again, I'm using small circles, just building this up, and I'm staying centered mostly in the center of the nose. And I don't mind a little bit of texture from the paper coming through because the nose on the dog is textured, so it does help me a little bit. We don't have to get full coverage. Doing small circles, coming down along here, along that line we drew in earlier. And if that has sort of disappeared, we will put that back in, nice and dark. Just like so. I am using a little bit more pressure on my pencil than I was before. Okay. Coming down, and then I'm coming up and around again, following my reference photo. And on this side, same thing. Let's follow the reference photo. Oh, I got a little further out. That's okay though. I think it's supposed to be, so I'm okay with that. Kind of sits back on the nose here. Put this little bit in, and then same over here. Kind of sits back. Like so. Okay, just like that. It does look a little uneven, so I'm going to go in and fix that. Again, always making adjustments, watching your reference photo, adjusting where it is needed. Okay, and I want to go ahead and get that very dark split in the nose in, so I'm going to go back in with my black pencil and put that in. And I'm going to go ahead now and really darken up my nostrils, nice and black. And start to bring it around in this shadow. Okay. Like that. Following the purple I put in earlier. Okay. And same on this side. Using much stronger pressure now on my pencil because I know this is the darkest part of the dog. And then it comes down and around. Make sure these are equal, parallel. So I want to make sure I get that in. Like that. And in here. Looks pretty good. Okay, and if you do have a spot where if you get this too low or too high, just take your granite rose or your grade violet, just redefine it. That's the beauty of pastel mat. You can go right over the darks if you need to. If you've lost a little bit of the structure there, it's okay. It happens, and then you can go back in with the dark pencil again and add to it. And this side looks pretty good. I like it. Add a little bit. Okay. That's one thing about pastel mat is it's very, very forgiving. So then I can readjust this like that. I'm using black. I'm just going back in and readjusting some of these. Okay. There we go. There. That looks pretty good. I am going to run some black over the very front here. I'm using light pressure. I'm not using real hard pressure. I'm just darkening up the shadow in the front. And it comes around a little bit over here. Very light pressure. Just putting this, it's almost like a glaze over that pink we just did, just to push it back a little bit. We don't need to, it doesn't need to be in your face that much. And then here. So glazing is just very, very light. I'm still using circles. Just bringing this around this way, following my reference photo. There. And now I'm going to switch back to pink, and I'm going to go ahead and start to put in some more up here in my highlight. And again, I'm just trying to get my colors blended a little bit and just knocking back the green, the tooth of the paper. Don't necessarily want the green coming through on my nose, the color of the paper, so I can still see it. So using the pink, pushing it back. I'm using light pressure, medium to light. I'm not glazing, so I'm putting a little pressure down. And in here, okay. But I definitely want to get rid of some of this green tone of the paper. I picked green because I liked the rustic oranges and browns in here against the green. I thought it was really pretty. Sometimes though when I pick these colors it makes it a little more difficult to cover. But I do like the end result, so I don't mind putting in the little bit of extra effort to get it where I want it. Had I used a white or maybe a gray, I probably wouldn't have taken quite as long to get where I wanted to be. But like I said, I do like the tones on the green. Okay, go ahead and just do it under the nostril as well. Soften that hard edge where that black is just a bit, kind of make it a little fuzzy, and bring your highlight down and around the nostril. Great, like that. And we can do the same thing over here. Creating our highlight. Okay. I'm going to take Caput Mortuum and Polychromos, and I'm going to go ahead and start to pull some of this forward from the back. Very, very light. I'm just kind of going over the pink. Not in the center though. This is going to be a grayish color. So, and we're going to put some purples in here as well. So I'm just kind of pushing back the pink a little bit, layering on top of it, bringing it around the nostril and down the edge over here. Okay, perfect. I do want to take some of this edge off at where the dark meets the light, so I'm just very lightly meeting in between them. Again, round circles, blurring the line, creating that nice soft gradient. And then down around this nostril, just like so. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. Right along this edge. Perfect. Alright, now right in the center of the nose, I'm going to take my gray, my light gray, and I'm going to go ahead and hit that again. It's got some bluish gray tones in the reference photo, so that's what I'm trying to go for. I'm going to hit it again with some purple as well, or the violet gray. I think we're going to have to switch to, is it this one? Yeah, so we have the brown beige. We're going to go ahead and put that in there. So starting towards the back and pull it towards the front. It's got I don't know, it does have a very tint of a purple to it, a little bit, but it's like to me it looks like a grayish brown, so it works well. I'll come around the edge. So we'll just come down around the edge, right there, down along the side here. Okay, and we are going to put some in here. I just want to smooth this out. Still, it has a lot of texture. And up here. Now that we're starting to build up some of our darks and lights, we can start to be a little more liberal with the colors that we're going to use. I'm going to tone this down a little bit in here. All right, now I'm going to work between the grayish black and my purple, my violet, and my grayed violet. Okay, so I've got these three colors, and on the very front of the nose I'm going to start applying a little more pressure, but kind of keeping some space in between the brown, letting the brown peek through, but I'm adding my grayish black to the front of the nose, coming up and around into the highlight a little bit. Coming around the nostrils, still making small circles, keeping with that texture. Okay. And I'm hitting the nostrils, the front parts of the nostrils with some of the gray black. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And I'm following my reference photo. And I'm going to come down the front of the nose. And again, I'm blurring the line where the light is between the brown, the lights and the darks, just so there's not a harsh line. So I'm using lighter pressure, kind of going up into the highlight a little bit, and then coming back down into the brown using small circular strokes. And again, I'm letting that brown still kind of peek through. I don't want to completely just go over it. I want it to come through the gray. And then I'm going to add some purple. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to my violet, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead but I'm going to keep it a little more concentrated down in the center here. Not going too high up into this area. And around the nostril, down around these little rounded parts of the nostril, and same over here. And again, I'm using small circles, and I'm coming down the center of the nose, a little more concentrated in here. Sticking closer to that center line where the nose has got a division. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to take that grayed violet, and I'm going to start at the top and start pulling down into the front of the nose with my grayed violet. I am using more pressure, harder pressure. Just coming around this way. around the side, right in there. And let's get this side in, over here. And then I'm going to hit right in here just a little bit, very light. And this side, not as much. This is in more shadow on this side. And then I'm going to drop down to our little highlight right underneath the shadow of the nostril, right in here, up around, and same thing over here. So like that. Now, before I go any further, I want to take the, which one is it? Let's take the mahogany and let's just hit some red brown spots down. I see a little bit down in here around the nostril, coming around. It's like a reddish brown. It's pretty. And I do see a little bit over here along the edge. I'm using light pressure along here. Yeah, that's pretty. Okay, maybe just a hint of it down here. It's got more purple on this side, but we can pop a little bit in. Definitely seeing it over here, a little more red brown along this edge. There, like that. If you want, you can add just a touch around the top here of where the shadow hits the top of the highlight, but use very, very soft pressure. We don't want it to look, you know, I want to add a little bit of color. So that's what I'm doing. Just adding a little bit of fun color to it, little red, little warmth. The photo reference is pretty gray. So I just want to pop some fun in there. And this is the thing, right? We can have some fun. I'm going to add a little bit towards the back here. And the edges. I like mahogany, it's pretty. Maybe just a bit over here, coming around. Just like that. I'm using like a little bit of a rocking back and forth motion coming around the nostril. Just something kind of light. Like that. Yeah, that's pretty. And just a little bit more over here. Okay. Define the edge of the nose here at the bottom. It's got some shadow in there. Not too much, not too thick. We don't want it to stand out too much because we're eventually gonna add fur on the lip. But we can kind of start to define this. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and start to add just some little pieces. I'm still using black, but I'm using light pressure, and I'm just starting to build it up from the nose down the lip, because this is going to be in shadow, so it's okay to kind of get that darker base in there, like that. But I'm not going to worry about too much of it right now. It just kind of gives me a benchmark of how much value I want in the nose. It just helps, because most of this is going to be brown. I'm going to go back up with my black into my nostril and define it some more. Get that going. Same over here, making sure they match up. similar. And let's get the shadow down here in. And again, you can go over it if you'd like with some purple or the gray black. Some of this in. Like so. Okay. So if you want, you could switch back to this gray black, tone these down a bit, and then I'm going to add some, not too much, I'm going to add some brown in there because I do want it to have, although it's got the shadow, the gray shadow, I do want it to have some brown. Or actually, you know what, I'm going to add a little purple first. So pretty. And it's really starting to get somewhere. I want to drop some purples in along here because it's pretty dark. And along these edges. We're going to have fur there. I'm going to bring some purples coming forward. And then I'm going to lighten it with my grayed violet. Okay, I'm going to push some up in here, just a little bit. Just very like large circles, just adding some color. I want some color. And I'm using violet. Okay, and then I can switch back to gray violet and just kind of blur it. It's like a back and forth. I'm glazing over it, kind of blurring the edges. That highlight is right in the front here. Make sure we keep that. Okay. And I'm going to glaze over just put some here and here. I'm going to glaze over that with, around these edges, I'm just going to use a little burnt sienna over here. And a little bit over here. And then I'm going to use my Mortem. I just like a little bit of a glow to kind of peek out from these highlights and the low lights. A little bit here, a little orangey glow. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my Caput Mortem, which is somewhere. Here it is. And I'm going to go ahead and glaze over the whole thing here. Very, very light, just very light. And down here to the body of the nose. along the edge. Just defining the edge a little bit. There's a little ridge. Okay. Go back to my gray. I'm still trying to kind of get rid of some of the tooth of the paper here so that the light gray works well. And actually, do that, and then we can grab some beige. Beige will work well too, and I like the highlight right here, on the tip of the nose, at the very top. I'm using a little more pressure. Keeping my circles going. Coming around the side. And same over here. And right about here, coming forward, just adding some highlights, this little area. Okay. And then I can take my black if you want, or just light pressure and push back up into the highlight here, just to create that shadow. Using circles, coming down into the shadow of the front of the nose, staying close to the division line, pushing up into here. And again, I do like some of the texture I'm seeing because it is a nose, and doggy noses have texture. So just coming down. Staying close to the center line. Really starting to push my black in. As I come out from the center line, I'm lightening my pressure a little bit. Okay. Don't worry about the two little highlights that are in there. We can push those out when we come back around. He's got some ridges, so with my black pencil I'm just kind of making some lines here at the bottom that kind of come up into this part of the nose. Starting to get a little more detail. And that's, you don't see them so much on this side. Okay, and then I can take my Mortem and just kind of soften it a little bit, those lines in between. So around this highlight, like that. Coming up around the edge, I'm still using my Kaput. Coming up here, just a little soft. And then same for this side. A little bit of a rocking motion. Coming around the edges. Okay. Put a little bit more over here. Getting my shadow back in around my nostrils. I need to make these just a bit smaller, a little bit too big. Okay, like that. This is going to come up around there. Okay. Darken up these nostrils a bit because they are distracting. Don't like how they look. So just pulling some black over, glazing over these. Same over here. Okay, that's better. Now, if you want, you can take your violet gray and just kind of, there's a couple little highlights here in this like rigid part of the nose. It's got some bumps that kind of come up like so. Okay, so I really like how my nose is starting to look, and now what I want to do is just go ahead and add in some, a little darker around this edge here. I've got some walnut brown. I'm just kind of swirling in just along the edge here and over here, like that. That looks great. And then I think what I want to do is start to bring in, let's use our brownish orange and just along this top edge here, from the back of the nose to the front, small swirls. Just kind of adding this in. It's a little bit of a change of color I see on the photo. Not too much, just in this general area right here. Okay, and then same thing over here, just along this side. There. Coming around the top a little bit, up into the highlight, just softening it, softening the edge. Okay. And right on the top of the nose there is quite a bit of highlight. So I'm going to take my light gray and I'm just going to very small dots just in that area. Just some dots. I'm like making tiny little circles, see? Like that, getting a little texture. Just where that highlight is, see? Right in the front. This is like the lightest part of the nose. Okay, you could put a little bit back here, kind of taper them off. If you don't like one, just take your grayed violet and just kind of get rid of it. If you don't like how one of them turned out. So, just gives me a little bit of a highlight here. There's a little bit that comes around the edge of the nose too. I'm just going to put a couple dots there. They're random. Just keep them random. Don't keep them too uniform. Maybe a couple going towards the back. It's just to start to get some of that, so you can see some of the texture of the nose. Makes it look a little more realistic. It's like little bumps that are catching the light. that, and then not too much over here, but you could do a couple. I'm going to put a couple more back here because these are simple. You can always take them out if you don't like them. So it's not like a huge commitment. Put them in where you think they should be. And then I'm going to do just a couple down around the edge here in the highlight. Just to give it some texture. And again, I can darken them a little bit. You know, if they get too bright, we can tone them down. Like this is a little bright, so I'll probably have to tone it down. But I'm going to put a couple over here. Just some little squiggly dots, squiggle dots. Okay, like that. I'm not seeing a whole lot on the front of the nose, but we can take liberties and just go ahead and put some in because you know that there's some texture there, and maybe we want to bring them up forward a little bit, just the front of the nose here. And again, if you don't like it, you can get rid of it. See, like that. I could do a couple. So there is a highlight along the edge here of this line, so maybe I'm doing them there just to kind of break that up. Like that. And then I can, like I said, I can, if they're too perfect or too bright, I can tone them down, which mine are. They're a little too bright. So I'm just going to keep putting them in though, and then I'll go back and I will tone them down. I'm going to see where I want them. So they're just kind of catching the light right around here. Come down a little bit on each side. So now what I can do is just take my walnut brown and just kind of get rid of some of the ones that are a little too bright. Just kind of stomping over them like a little stippling, pushing like that. This is still too bright up here, and then here. Just creating some texture in there, and that nose. This one I'm going to just go in with some of my burnt sienna and tone it down a little bit, just because I want a little bit of a glow. And I could do the same over here. Just burnt sienna. I'm just stippling over the top just to tone it back a little bit, so it's not quite so white. And same with over here. There, it takes the edge off a little. There, that looks pretty cute. You can go in and define a couple by just putting a little bit of a ridge under them. So, like a little shadow. Like there's a little drop shadow. And again, if you don't like how one looks, you can pull it out. Just go over it with some pencil. Have fun. Not everything has to be perfect. You know, experiment a little bit. This is just a study, so it's not a big deal if it's incorrect. It's just one way to do something. Maybe you'll find a new way to do something. I'm going to go ahead and knock some of this back too, because it is just a tad too bright for me. Don't want it to be so bright. And maybe as I push the fur in around the nose and stuff, I may bring some of those colors out again. You know, it depends, but I'm going to go ahead and get some more of these in here. A little more defined. Where I put those under shadows, I'm just kind of popping some highlight in. Like that. Again, you can always, as you build your dog, as you build in the fur and stuff, if they're still too bright, you can go back and mute them down. Maybe once you get other parts of the body in, they may not be bright enough. So, you know, don't be afraid. That's the wonderful thing about the pastel mat, is you can really, I'm going to pop some up here, just some texture. You can really push the paper to work for you. And that's what I really like about it, is it doesn't, you know, it's not, like if you do something and you need to correct it, as long as you haven't put too much pressure down, you can do that. You can go ahead and correct it. As I come down, I'm going to make them a little bit lighter. Bring them down a little bit, just to kind of, so you can still see that there's some texture there, like that. So that's a little bright, right? So all I do is I'm just going to take some burnt sienna. I'm just going to go over it a little bit. I don't want to take too much out yet, like I said, because we haven't built up the rest of the dog. So until I really know where I need to add some more value and some more highlights, I don't want to just obliterate everything that I've done. It's the only thing about doing one piece at a time, is we have no benchmark around it to tell us how dark or how light we want to go. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will work on a piece and I'll work on the nose to a point, but then I might start to build around the nose, around the mouth area, so that I get a pretty good idea of how much more I need to put in. How dark or how light, how much more I have to push it. So I'm just putting some texture with my burnt sienna over here, some dots, and again, I can always pull those out if I don't like them.